Hello everybody. Okay, so this might seem like a really stupid video to most people, but I'm doing this for a reason, okay? And it's how to string a fishing pole. Okay, this is an old pole my brother gave me, and I spilled pipe dope on it and it still works. But anyway, I'm not gonna say why I'm doing this video. Let's just say I'm doing this video. Okay, this is a fishing pole. This is a reel. It's missing what they call the spool. Okay, it's not missing it anymore. It's right here, right? And then this is your cap. And the cap goes on top of the spool, and this whole assembly goes on top of the fishing pole. Now, when you put the spool on, hear that? That's the gears inside holding it up, right? See that hole? You'll notice that hole is oval. You notice on the end of this, it's oval too, okay? Because they gotta line up. Inside's a bunch of springs. When you hear that clicking, as you tighten this down, it makes it tighter. Everyone's like, no, duh. Okay, I'm doing this for a reason. It's not for me. It's for somebody else, okay? Alright, I'm just putting this thing, just putting it on, twisty. Don't over tighten it. See how tight that is? That's setting the drag. When you're lining, okay, this is the bell. This thing's dirty and sticky, but it's because it's been sitting in a basement forever. When you're getting ready to put fresh line on here, alright, this is how I do it. So all you professional fishermen out there, know-it-alls and geniuses, I don't care what you do. This is how I do it. And I get it, this is not fishing line, everybody, okay? I'm going to take a length of the line. This is a spool, and that's what you get your fishing line on. But I'm using large line so you can see it. This is like probably a number 9 bank line or something like that. I take my fishing line, okay? This is your running end, this is your working end, and you make what they call a bite. See how long that is? A bite, okay? I like to take this bite and just wrap it over my finger. And yes, I do use a lot of fishing line for this because I hate fighting with it. And the fatter your fingers get and the older you get and you lose your dexterity, the harder this gets. So you make a loop. And you want to try to make this loop as small as possible. Okay? And you'll make that. You'll trim the tail end off. So pretend I trimmed it off. Trim, okay? Now I have a loop. I take my bell, flip it over. I take my loop. I don't just hook it on there, okay? I'll take this and I like to pull it through like this, okay? And I got a secondary loop. The direction you put this on matters, okay? So you put it on, pull it taut, you flip this over, and I put it on wrong, and I'll show you why. The direction the reel is going to spin is loosening up the knot. I'm tying my fishing pole in a knot. If you see that knot, or this loop, as this spins, it doesn't tighten it up. So if you mess it up like this, what you want to do, okay, is simply take the loop off the fishing pole, okay, and flip it over so it goes the other way. Okay, so now as you pull on it, that's not working out very good, it's falling off. Okay, you see this? You want it to pull the line, but you also want it to pull this loop tight, okay? You want to pull the loop tight. If it's just spinning it around, let's see if I can do this, okay? Get this all set back up for you, for the person I'm doing this for. You know what? For fun, I am going to actually trim it because it is becoming a problem. So remember I said trim it? I said trim. Well, here's another way to trim it. Just don't cut yourself doing it. Okay, trimmed. Wasted some string, but I'll live. Okay. Very sharp knife. So now you have your loop. A fishing line. Don't use bank line. You make a loop that looks like this, okay? Make sure you run it through the eyelet. Alright? It helps to have a friend with a screwdriver. See that hole in the middle? A fishing spool will have the same thing. You poke a hole through the paper and you hold slight tension on this so that as the line feeds onto the fishing reel, it's snug. If you're like me and you don't have any friends, which I do have friends, that's a joke because I don't want to insult my friends that I do have. Alright? I'll show you the trick here. Take your loop, okay, and all that is you take your loop and you pull the knot up through so it creates a secondary loop. See that? You get that loop right there. Now, you want to make sure your bell is flipped up as if you were getting ready to cast. Find the orientation of your bell. And I still do this wrong once in a while. I loop it over, see, and I flip it. And this is the right way. This is the way I like to do it. So as I'm reeling it on, it pulls back on that knot. See that? It tightens up. If you do it wrong and you catch a fish and you're trying to reel it in, this will just sit there and spin and spin and spin and spin. Here's that trick I was telling you. Take and run your line all the way up to the spool. Okay? I'm still holding it with my finger over here. And then start to turn this on there. And it will start to feed. See how it's spinning? See, this would suck as fishing line, by the way. But if it doesn't do that, you did it backwards. Let's see if I can. That's the drag, right? Pulling it out. Now this loop, if I put it on backwards, okay, flip it over and put it on backwards, and you'll see what I mean by it'll just spin in circles. It'll never tighten up. It'll just sit there and spin, see? If you do it wrong, you'll sit there and spin in circles on you. See how the knot's spinning? The knot's not supposed to spin. Remember that. The knot is not supposed to spin. If you find that it's spinning, like this, take it off. Oop, I got hooked all around the bell. So I think I'm a novice fisherman or something. Take it all off. Alright, now my line's getting all twisted and tangled. That's the other thing. You don't want this to start happening on your fishing line. If you see that happens, cast it all the way out and run your finger along it. See, that's a loop. That'll turn into what they call a rat's nest on here, and then you won't be able to cast anywhere. You want to pull it taut and get all those loops out. And as you reel it in, use your fingers like this lightly to pull the kinks out of it. Okay. So see that loop? Maybe you can see it, maybe you can't. I don't know. Let's see. Oops. I'm trying to do this so you can see what I'm doing, and I suck at it. Alright, see that loop? Can you see the orientation? It's when it pulls against it. And sometimes it helps to hold the knot, and then it'll pull against it, okay? Remember I was telling you to see how it's wanting to kink up on us? This is a good example. Pull the line all the way to the first eyelet, and you want to hold it in line with the reel, okay? My finger's holding it. Stupid bugger. It's actually, it's loosening itself right now because I still got it on backwards. I gotta flip it over again. And you'll know you're doing it wrong when you start spinning your reel and it doesn't go on the pole like you want it to. You essentially want it to tighten up on the knot, the loop that you created. So this is the wrong way to do it. Let's see if I can get you a good view of it. See the direction the line is going? As this comes around to push it, it's pushing it loose, okay? You want it to pull it tight. You want it to bite down on itself. You want it, let's see if I can do this. Okay, you want it to look like this. See this loop? Try to see if I can see this. Alright? The pulls, you want it to pull tight against itself, over itself like that. Okay? So it's pulling tight. You don't want it to push. This is hard to do on the camera, guys. You don't want it to push this way and just keep going around and around and around and never get anywhere. You want it to bite down on itself. Okay? Pull it taut. See, it's still going around. It's because the string's too big. It is actually feeding it on there, though. There we go. You hit it until the drag isn't set. Okay. So I'm going to back all the way up. Pull up. Make this knot. You do that knot by doing this. Lay it over with enough to make a big loop. Enough to make a big loop. Hang it down, right? Give it a twist. Give it a twist so you have this knot here. And then feed this end through the double loop. Okay, you get this knot here. I'm not going to tighten it. Tighten it up all the way, and you'll have a tail end. Snip that tail end off until it looks like this. Okay, you really don't want this loop here any bigger than your thumb. Otherwise, you're just wasting fishing line. You're gonna pull it through that loop, making sure this knot here follows till you get this loop here, and then as it's pulling on, you want the fishing line, okay, to pull against. Bite down on itself. You don't want it to go this way because it'll just do this. See? You want it to bite down. To go back on itself. Pulling against the loop you just created. Okay? And then it will wind up. If you get it wrong, say I try to wrap it this way. It'll just keep going around and around. But if I go this way, it tightens up instantly. See? And that's what you want. So let's see. Make sure you flip your bell up. I promise you'll forget to do that. Loop it over and pull it taut. See, I did it wrong, so this is the wrong hookup. Can you see that? Because this thing spins around. See it just walking it around? It's not tightening up, right? So if you mess it up like I just did, flip your bell again. Bail, I don't know. Flip it over so it's biting down on itself as it's tightening up. Gosh dang, roof is too low. Alright, I don't know if you can see it. So as this thing spins around, it bites down. See, pulls it like that. Okay, make sure you don't tie yourself in a bunch of knots too. So that is what you want it to be doing right there. trying to get a good view of this in the light. Perfect view right there. See that loop? It goes up and around, right? And then line coming out bites down and pulls against it and creates another bite. You want it to bite back on itself. You don't want it to feed the other way. So if it's sitting there spinning, flip it over, pull it snug, and then start twirling it. If you start getting these in your line, let's see if I can do this, which I'm getting a lot of them. Let's see, getting a whole bunch of them right here. This is some pretty heavy line. See, it starts going on, right? If you get something like this, you want to carefully pull it straight. Carefully pull it straight. Work all the kinks out of it. See how I did that? They're all down there now, so they'll still come up your rod. Point this down to my midsection here. It's dirt. I like to hook the fishing pole into my fat, pull up on the string and hold it like this. Let's see if I can do this, and then start reeling it on. If you don't have a buddy, this helps keep your line taut. If you have a buddy, you still want to do this with your line, okay? And you want to fill your reel up to about, you want it level, maybe a little less than level with the spool. Let's see, can I get a good angle on this? Alright. You want to fill it up, but you don't want it too full. All the angles are wrong right now, sorry. There we go. You want this full, but not too full. Okay, you don't want it heaping up, and you don't want it so loose that when you cast out, you get a big wad of line coming off. If you do that, you filled it too full. To get some off, it's easy enough. You just pull it off. When you're about down to where you want it to be, snip it and then retie everything. Okay, any questions? Feel free to shoot me some in the comments. Okay. Or if you know who I am, give me a phone call. I'll try to walk you through it. But the big key is to get it on there, is to have this come back and bite on itself.